Well, I
Let's
know
get connected.
Sharon, I know Bridget. So I just have to meet all these other beautiful
Oh,
ladies
they're
here.
starting to pop on. Yay. Well, Taylor and I met it's been almost 5 years ago.
No,
I can't even believe that.
I can't
And
either.
we were at Florida somewhere Florida. And this gorgeous woman walks in the room, and everybody's like, who is this? This is Hollywood. Her and I'd never met Larry before. And that was our first introduction to long-term network marketers. Today is Larry's 52nd. Is that right, Taylor?
Actually, yesterday was.
Yesterday, his 52nd year in network marketing. And
Yeah,
you've been in network marketing 17, 18,
27.
27. Whoops, excuse me. I missed some
27.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I started when I was 3.
I understand. Me
Yeah.
too. So I wanted to have Taylor on because I think a lot of people struggle with telling their story just like I did. Um, and I've learned over time that it's not the details of your story, it's the timeline of your story to where you started to how you got to where you are today. And I couldn't think of anybody else to tell it better than Taylor, because she started working with us when we were in the Top Earner Club forever ago, it seems like. And it just makes you stop and think, what is your story?
Yeah.
What do you offer? And everybody says, but I don't have a story. If you're alive and breathing, you have a story.
Yeah.
Whether it's a crappy story or not, you are a survivor and you've made it here today. So
Woo, woo, woo.
I'm getting better. I'm always working on that.
Yeah.
I have a document that I write my story in, and I rewrite, um, because we don't need the details. So this
Yeah.
is where the story woman comes in.
Wow, what a nice introduction. Well, thank you so much. Well, okay, well, so I want to talk about this because first of all, like I'm so passionate about stories. And the reason for
Yeah.
that is because that's what got me into this business 27 years ago. I was looking for mom care versus daycare, right? I wanted to make an extra $800, and that was enough. That was equivalent to me working full time and paying for daycare. That's how I came up with that random number. And, so you have to think about like how long ago that actually was. Like that was before cell phones. That was before the internet. That certainly before social media. And so I was answering ads in the newspaper. And some of you may know what a newspaper is. Some of you, I don't know if you've ever I don't know, but they but they're these black and white things that you used to get. And they had this section about like want ads. They call them want ads, like where they would place jobs. And they would have sections about how to, a job section on how companies would, advertise who they were looking for. And so I was answering these work from home kind of ads. And and I'm sharing this with you because I think this is really significant to the whole part of the story. So, I was so desperate to have mom care versus daycare. I tried I'd answer these ads, and it was like work from home, stuff envelopes, make extra money. I'm like, oh, I actually believed that was a thing, right? And I sent off money so they could send me this stuff so I could make money. Like, who, like, really? I mean, they literally had scams back then, just like they do now. It's just in a different format. I made beaded, and so in between these ads, I was answering these Herbalife ads, and I'll share I shared this because you have to understand that, 27 years ago, there wasn't as many there wasn't a network marketing company popping up, 3 or 4 every single day, new ones, right? The opportunities were very limited. There was very few network marketing companies that were around. It was like Mary Kay, Herbalife, it was a few like that. Those were some of the big ones that you would recognize as of today. And, you know, I'd answer these ads in the newspaper and they were like Herbalife. Now keep in mind and I would answer these ads and I would be like, I'm not selling anything. I'm not interested in that. Famous last words, right? But what was happening is they were telling me, they were trying to sell me their product. I'd answer the ads and then they would try to sell me their product. Now, they were selling a weight loss product. I just had a baby. I needed to lose weight, but I was like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, right? So there's a lesson in all of this that I'm sharing this with you, because so many people, they want to lead with their product and talk about their product, and people may not care about your product right now, right? So, I answered ads. I made beaded jewelry from home. And so, you know, I actually did this, and it took me 4.5 hours to make one pair, and I had to make 20 pair to be part-time. Do the math. Doesn't work, right? I kept answering these Herbalife ads, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so there was a funny story, because this lady across the street that lived from me, she was this little redheaded old lady, and she had all these bumper stickers around her car. It said, lose weight now, ask me how. And I'm like, oh my dear God, if I have to wear bumper stickers, I'm definitely not interested in that. Like, who wants to wear bumper stickers? That's ugly. And so therefore my preconceived ideas continue to go. And so then I got to the point of complete desperation, and I actually processed Angora goat hair out of my bathtub. Now, I know that sounds completely insane, completely crazy. I mean, if you're in the point of desperation, that I literally thought that I could make doll's hair, make a living at this, processing this shaved goat hair. You can imagine long hair Angora goat hair coming in this Ziploc bag with all the hay and the stuff inside this goat hair. And I think I'm going to make it look like doll's hair, because it was supposed to be this beautiful doll's hair that I was going to process it and actually get paid for it. Now, can you imagine the state of mind this mom is in, to think that this is a legitimate deal? And to the point to where I actually have this goat hair laid out in my bathtub that I put my body in, and I've got goat hair in the bathtub. And it was at this point that I found myself like literally leaning over the bathtub, looking at this, bawling in tears. You know, now it's like, you know, now it's, I can talk with it like in humor now, but at the time I was so desperate, right? I was like, is anything really work? And I'm sharing this with you to another point, because sometimes you never know what kind of things that people have to go through to where they are open to hear what you have to say, right? They have to go through the journey. They have to go through the processes. And that's why whenever you are, you know, I mean, I'm assuming all of your networkers here, is that the deal, Angela? Okay, good. So, you know, and because sometimes we go, no, not right now. I mean, like, I always think it's not right now, because you never know when circumstances change in somebody's life, that they hear with different set of ears. They see, feel, because of what they've experienced. And so I went back to the ads in the newspaper and I answered this ad. Now, this was completely different this time, because it was an Herbalife ad. However, they told me this story. And the story went like this. I lived in West Texas all my life, and there was this couple. They were telling me about this couple that lived in this little bitty town in West Texas, and it was about 15 miles from where I lived, and it was a town of about 10,000 people, 12,000 people. And at the time, they were making $10,000 a month. Now, keep in mind, 27 years ago, that's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money now. But I never heard that part of the story. And that's not what got me. That's not what got me. What got me was, if a couple, not very far from where I live, in a little bitty town like that, can make $10,000, surely I, processor of goat hair, can make 800, right? And that's what I heard. You know, my ears pricked up to like the possibilities. And so I got started. And I jumped in feet first, and I called myself ignorance on fire. Like, I just talked to anything and anything that moved. And I was sharing the story. Now, the other part of it is, now keep in mind, I got on the product. I got a result. I started I lost 5 pounds in my first 7 days. My energy was great. My appetite was under control. I went on to lose 28 pounds, and I went from a size 14 to a size 6 in the first 30 days. That was my story. Because of those results, I made $2,400 my very first month in network marketing. Now, I share all that because the story part is what got me in. It's what hooked me. And so I've been really a student of studying stories and how to tell stories effectively. And to be honest, it's a dying art. Because most people don't understand the point of telling your story. It's not so you can hear yourself talk. It's for the point of the person that's listening to the story. So you are the whole point of the story of you being window dressing for someone else. You being window dressing for someone to raise their hand to say, I want to know more. Tell me more about what you're doing. Tell me more about what your product is. Tell me more about how you did that. Tell me more, raise your hand. So wherever that is, in whatever format that is, I want you to think about it. That ad in the newspaper is no different than what you're doing whenever you make a curiosity post. It's no different. If they would have put Herbalife in their ad, or told me and said the name of the company or the name of the products or whatever, I would have had a preconceived idea about it, and I never would have answered the ad. I never would have answered. So that ad was no different than what we call, or what you know as, a curiosity post. It's no different, because what's the point of a curiosity post? A curiosity post is getting somebody to raise their hand. Hey, I want to know more. Same thing with an ad. So it's the same. Social media was an ad in the newspaper, just like Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, that you're getting somebody to raise their hand. To what point? The point of it is you want to get them to lean in, step forward, tell me more. Now, what is your role? Your role is now so you can tell them your story, because that is what gets them to take another step forward. You don't want to, that's why most people are losing big time in this market, because they're not giving somebody an opportunity to raise their hand so you can tell them your story. You're basically throwing up all over them before they get to raise their hand. So there's a psychology that's involved in this process. There's a psychology that's involved in the process that you have to give them permission. You want them to, they have to give you permission for you to be able to speak. And so your story is a way to connect with them, for them to understand, you understand the shoes they're walking in. You understand their pain points. You understand, because you're reading their mail, then they're saying, oh my gosh, she's just like me. Oh my gosh, I feel that same way too. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm going through. So whenever you have your story, it creates identification. Identification is a part of the story that allows the listener to open up their ears to hear what you have to say. And so the more that you can connect those dots in the story, the more prone their ears are going to be pricked up to hear what you're going to tell them, because they want to know. The idea behind this is that not only they get to raise their hand, but they go, if that happened for her, and if that worked for her like that, maybe that can happen for me like that. That's the communication. That's the barriers that you are bringing down that's the walls that you're bringing down to the listener. And so there's a process that has to unfold. So whenever I use the term window dressing, I want you to think about it. I want you to think about, as you tell your story, you guys, you ladies know what it is to like walk down the sidewalk and go window shopping, right? You know, whenever you have the beautiful windows and they have shoes, or they have the mannequin and however it's dressed, right? And you're window shopping. But what's the point of window shopping? What's the point of a mannequin or something that's displayed in the window? The idea behind it is to get you to be so enticed that you raise your hand, that you come in the store, a store that you might not have come in otherwise, to come check it out, to come see more, to come try it on, to see if this is going to work for you or not, right? That's window dressing. Your story is window dressing for somebody else. And so many times people get caught up in the details of their story and everything, that because they have the emotional attachment to the story. The person that's telling, they have so much emotional attachment to the story that they share all of this stuff whenever it's not relevant to the person that's listening. And what happens, most all the time, there's so much involved that the person shut down and they don't hear anything that you've said, because there's so many details, and it's like, where are you going with this? Why is this relevant to me? And so it's a lost art. And so many times too is that whenever you're sharing your story, you think it's so much about you and what you did and what you overcome, and you're not realizing that you're sharing it because you are wanting to change the person in front of you's life, or the person that's listening life. You have to be so proficient at sharing your story that they can walk away from that conversation, that meeting, after you sharing it, and they could essentially repeat what you said. Y'all copy that? You have to have your story in such a way that the listener can come back and repeat what you just said. Because if they can't repeat what you just said, and if they can't glean any nuggets from what you just said, you just wasted your breath. Because we want stories are tools in our toolbox. Stories are what emotionally gets people to move forward. And I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it. I mean, I'll lay money on, I'm not a gambling woman, but I'll go all in on this one. And that is, if you think about how you came into your company and started marketing your products, I guarantee you it wasn't all the facts and figures and stats about how much the company sold and how awesome they are and all the CEOs and how brilliant they are and all the blah, blah, all that stuff, and all the science and all the doctors, and we have all these clinicals and blah, 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 all that stuff. I guarantee you it was somebody's story. It was somebody's story that you connected with emotionally, whether it was about the product or service, or whether it was the opportunity side. You thought, and I guarantee if you go back and you pull yourself back out of it, you probably went through the same processes. Like you thought, oh my gosh, if that can happen for them, maybe that might happen for me too. I want you to think, like, I mean, feel free to tell me otherwise. If it was all the facts and figures, I'll be happy to listen. I'm guessing I'm saying probably no, but okay. That's so the tools, the story are your tools. The stories are what you use to take to the marketplace. The stories is how you overcome objections. The stories are all, I always saw myself as a paid story collector, because I had a story for everything. Because no matter what they said, I was like, I don't know. I just know that this is what happened for my friend, Angela, right? So if you have enough stories in your toolbox, I guarantee you, you will never be lacking in business. And I don't care if you know all the science. I don't care if you know one more thing. I don't care if you know how to do the X's and O's, or even how you make money. I don't care. If you have a story, I promise you, you can build as big a business as you have the desire to build. So that's the foundation. So here's how this works. Now, I want you to write this part down. If it's not necessary to say, it's necessary not to say. Think about it. If it's not necessary to say, it's necessary not to say. So what I mean by that, and I'll throw out a couple of examples. You know, people say, well, you know, my name is, oh, so they'll say, well, I don't know if it was on Monday or Tuesday. And gosh, I don't remember if it was everybody like, well, what are you talking about? Like, who cares about that, right? So here's the outline. Well, we'll go in the outline and then I'll put some meat on the bones for you. So here's the outline. The outline looks something like this. So your name and where you're from. Now, where you're from is a really important part. And the reason for that is what? Identification. Because as you tell your story, the listener, whenever you say, hi, my name is Taylor Thompson, I'm from Dallas, Texas. So what does the listener do? Oh, my grandma lives in Dallas. Oh, I have an aunt that lives in Dallas, right? Now, they don't know that's what you're doing, but that's what you're doing, right? So then you say what your background is. My name is Taylor Thompson. I live in Dallas, Texas. My background is just a stay-at-home mom. So now what happens? My background is very, very important. Why? Identification. They may not remember your name, but I guarantee you everybody, if they don't remember Larry's name, they'll know him as the long-haired hippie construction worker. I mean, that's how he identifies himself. That's what people connect to. Why is that important? Because as I say, stay-at-home mom, you know, what people do. Oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Oh, well, you know, my sister, she's a stay-at-home mom, right? So we're connecting dots. So what we're doing is we're triggering people that they know that they don't even know that that's what we're doing. So again, this is psychology, okay? So now that's it. You know, now lots of times I've seen so many people's stories, they talk about how many kids and dogs and grandkids and, you know, horses and cows and they're the cat lady and, oh my gosh, no, stop, just stop. I don't care if you want to say, yeah, I'm a nana of 7 or, you know, my grandkids call me honey. I don't care. Whatever, if you want to say that, that's great. I love it. So now the next thing is now you're going to paint a picture of what your life was like before. So what your life was like before you were introduced to these products or service, before you were introduced to this opportunity. Tell us what your life was like before. What was going on with you? So, you know, if you are, I mean, if let's just say you're in some like nutrition or some sort of health related, I'm going to make the assumption that that's what it is for the most part because of Angela. But, you know, maybe there was some sort of health issue. Maybe, you know, before I found this, and this is a great thing because before I found this product or before I found this opportunity. So because I want you to think about this, and there's so many times, and Larry and I teach this, and sometimes people catch it and sometimes they don't. If you understand what I'm going through, what I'm going to be saying here, most people, a lot of times people say, well, do I lead with the product or I lead the opportunity? Well, if you listen to what I'm going to say, you're going to do both because they're one and the same. And I know this might be a woo, tilt right now, but I mean, so you can talk about, because I want you to think about your company or your, you know, what is a big house, right? And people come in, there's a front door and a back door, right? Some people come in the front door because they're consumers of the product, or they were customers and they started as a customer, right? And some people come in the back door. They came in because they wanted an opportunity. They were looking for an opportunity. But I want you to think about your company as this house. It's a house. No matter what, whether you come in as a customer or whether you came in as the opportunity, you had to have a result on your product in order for you to feel strong enough, passionate enough to be able to talk about it to someone else. There had to be a result. There had to be some sort of emotional connection that you had with your product. Does that make sense? So that's why, you know, Larry and I teach this concept, use, talk, demo. So use, you have to use the products. You have to be a user of the products. So there was some sort of something that you were going through, dealing with, and, you know, whatever that, we'll say it's health related. So before I found these products, you know, I had headaches all the time. I was struggling with my allergies. You know, I had no energy. You know, I was constantly sick. I mean, so what did that look like? What was it? Or before I found these products, you know, I was looking for, you know, a safe, effective product that was, you know, I tried a lot of different things, you know, because I was looking for safe alternatives, whatever. You are painting a picture of whatever that, and you want to connect as many dots as you possibly can. Sometimes, and the reason I say that, and because we're talking, and this, okay, so this is really, really generic, but, you know, sometimes people want to talk about their diagnoses, because I know that you guys are in like the health thing, right? So they want to talk about their diagnoses. I don't think that's relevant. And the reason I don't think that's relevant is because there's no connection. Because if you say some sort of diagnoses, most people are like, what the heck is that? But if you talk to them and tell them how you were feeling, right? You're telling them, I didn't feel good. I didn't have any energy. I was tired all the time. So those are more connectors than a diagnosis. Does that make sense? So, and people can connect with how you were feeling because they're like, man, that's how I feel too. So you're painting the picture of what your life was like before. Now, next piece. Now I got introduced to these products, this opportunity. How did you get introduced? So this is the line in the sand. This is the real line in the sand. And once you draw the line in the sand, you can't go back. You can't go backwards. So I'll share this to make this point. Sometimes people go, yeah, well, you know, I got on, you know, I didn't have any energy, and I got on these products, and then I had a lot of energy my first time, and then you know, I was having some blood sugar issues, and then, you know, after I got started on this, so they're like jumping back and forth over this line, right? So most people's brains, people think sequentially. They think linearly. They think, you know, in sequence. And so whenever you go back and forth, they're like, well, and so it's easier to say sequential before you get to the line in the sand. Now, another thing is that don't date your story. Don't date it. Don't say, you know, 5 years ago, I was introduced to this product, or back in June of 2010, you know, no, we don't want to date the story. Okay. So, and I'll tell you my story and how I package it. So I'll make this point, but I'll come back to this. So we're going to go with we'll go with the line in the sand. The line in the sand. How did you get introduced? How did you get introduced to this product or opportunity? Now, this one's real important, because if your next door neighbor told you, or you got, you kept seeing your friend make these posts and you were like, hey, what is that all about? Or somebody sent you a message and said, hey, would you mind watching my friend sent me this video, or whatever that looks like. What are we doing now? We're connecting more dots because the listener's hearing, oh, it plants an idea about how you found out about it. It gives them ideas about, oh, that makes sense. Does that mean now their minds are open to a lot of different possibilities of, oh, well, they've heard about it like this, and this person found out about this, and this person found out about like this. So now the next thing is what did you do? What happened? What happened to you? So I always like to paint the quickest story in the shortest amount of time. So what's the best story? So you want to paint, you're always sharing the story, telling the truth in the best possible light. And what does that look like? So now this is whenever you can, it's not date the story, but you're putting some timelines and some time frames in there. So if you can say, my first experience, or my first day, or my first week, this is what happened, this is what I noticed. And through this story, you're addressing all of the things that were in your before. So if you're talking about, before you were talking about, I had migraines, or, I was having these serious headaches all the time, in my first week, my headaches, I noticed that I wasn't having a headaches in the very first 2 days, whatever the shortest amount of time. Am I connecting? You guys making sense? Okay. So then, my very first month, this is what happened, and now as a result, this is and this is what I like to finish up with. And the best part for me is really, really great connector, because it is personal to you. I'll give you and usually it's pretty emotional, and because everybody's best part's different. And so your best part, it's no different than your background, but your best part can connect the dots with somebody else who's listening. Probably one of the best part for me is that I heard recently. This young lady, she was talking about, because it was actually weight loss, and she was like, and Bridget, you probably know her, and she was like, the best part for me is, now I can stand at the stove and cook my son a healthy meal without being in pain. And I thought, wow. I mean, you talk about bringing some tears to some mama's eyes just with that alone. So that's the idea behind it, right? That's the feel of it. So now so that's like the outline, right? So if you, so I'm going to give you, I'll give you an example. So I'll tell you my story. So remember I said, I came in because of the opportunity, right? So now I'll share how that would look. So I'll go from two different perspectives, because whenever you're sharing your story, you're covering, if you do this right, you can not only get customers, but you can recruit at the same time. Okay, so this is gold, guys. I'm telling you, people pay me big money for this stuff. Big money. No, not really. Okay, so for me, so this would be the way my story would go about. So before I started, before I was introduced to this opportunity, I was looking to have mom care versus daycare. I was looking for a stay-at-home opportunity that I could make an extra $800. And I tried so many things. I answered all these crazy ads. I answered, ads in the newspaper, and, how to make beaded jewelry, and and it was just so crazy. And I kept answering different ads, and I was just so skeptical because I wasn't interested. I didn't want to sell anything. But you know, what happened for me is I answered this ad in the newspaper, and it totally changed my life, because they told me this story about this couple. And they, you know, there was this little bitty town outside of where I lived, in this small West Texas town. And they were in this couple was making like $10,000 a month. And I couldn't even believe it. I never believed that somebody like me could make, you know, $10,000. But what I did believe is I could make 800. And I got started and I got started immediately. And because I just had a baby, I needed to lose some weight, and I got started on the products, and immediately my energy, I felt great. I had energy. My appetite was under control. I mean, I lost 5 pounds in my first 7 days. And I mean, I just started talking to everybody I knew. My very first 7 days, I made $420. And so I went on, and I continued to have results. In my first 30 days, I dropped 28 pounds. I went from a size 14 to a size 6. And because of those results, I made an extra $2,400 my very first month. The best part for me is that I never had to get a job outside the home. I made my goal of $800. And so I know if I can do it, you can do it. So that's how I tell my story. So I incorporated my product results. I incorporated what happened with me. It was sequential as to how it happened. And so what I've done is I've painted a picture. So the person, so if I'm sharing that story, if I have this package, right, and I have somebody that's raised their hand, right, that I'm having a conversation with, meaning that, you know, you can have these kind of conversations wherever. You can have them in front of people, on online, offline, whatever. But by me sharing that story, they're like, they heard a couple of different things, right? They heard how I made money. They heard I was on these products. So they heard both aspects of it. So now they go, well, can you show me how to make $800? Do you think I can make $800? Yes. What do I know that has to happen? I know that they got to get on the products in order for that result to take place, right? What if I share that story, if I'm talking to somebody that they're like, well, you know, I don't think I'm interested in selling anything, but can you tell me more about that product that you lost weight on? Can you, or that product that you had energy with, or right? So now as a result of me sharing it the way I've shared it, I've opened that door. Even if I was sharing with them about the product, if I knew, let's just say I knew for a fact that they were talking about the product, I know by sharing the way I got started and why I was looking for it and what happened with me, even if they only want to start on the product, in the back of their mind, they already know there's an income opportunity. And this is the hardest bridge for most distributors to cross, because if they only focus on product, how do I cross that bridge and get them to see the opportunity? How do I transition across that bridge? How do I let them know? Because now it feels icky. Ugh. Right? You get that pit in your stomach, like, ugh, how do I do that? Most people, they never get to cross that bridge. They never do that. And so consequently, they never recruit. They only sell products, and they never build their team. And so whenever you learn how to share your story and learn how to package your story in this format and what's happened with you and how it worked for you, then you can recruit all day long. You can get customers all day long. And it's the same story. It's the same story, and it works both ways. You've got both oars in the water. If you're only telling one story, you've got one oar in the water. What does that mean? You're going in circles. That's what that means. So I want you to listen. If you listen to what my story is, I never ever told a story outside of my first month. And I've built huge businesses with that story alone. And so I share that with you too, is that you don't have to be making $10,000 a month in order to recruit somebody. In fact, it's probably to your detriment if you are telling somebody that. I don't know what your income is, but if you're telling somebody that, don't tell them, because you're blowing them out of the water. It's like shooting a cannon at a rabbit. Don't do that. Don't do that. So and I want you to think about it. The way I told my story, if I wouldn't have, I mean, like, okay, maybe because I mentioned newspaper, that might have dated it a little bit, but just because you knew what happened, that might have dated it a little bit. But if you didn't know otherwise, you probably wouldn't have heard that happened 27 years ago. Because I didn't say, oh, 27 years ago, before I was, what? Then people go, oh, lady, you're way out of touch. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. That's so you never want to date your story. You always want to make it wanted to be the most relevant that you possibly can, because it's current, it's relevant. So you never put dates on your story for that very reason, because you want it to sound as current as you possibly can, right? So I've talked a long time, and I know that there must be some questions.
Everybody can unmute yourself and talk to Miss Taylor. Did you get something out of that storytelling? That's a whole different method. I love her notes. I've taken notes in the Zoom chat so I can download that file as well as my notes, because I think that's where we all get hung up, is how to tell the story for business and product. And you just shortened it down into a 5-minute conversation.
Well, and so if I want you to think about this too. I want you to think about, if you think about your story in bullet points. If you think about your story in bullet points and highlight it in that kind of format, what are the high points? Because if you make those stresses on those bullet points and then put a little meat on the bones around it, right? Because ideally you want the listener to have handles to grab onto. That's the best. I mean, they grab onto it so they can say, oh yeah, well, I just got off this call. I can't even believe it. My friend Angela, and I mean, like, before she was on this, she told me this, and so you want them to be able to have something that they can in turn repeat and be excited about until they get their own story. That's how you start multiplying in your business. Most people if you learn this, I guarantee you'll start getting more duplication and even in a multiplication. And if you don't believe me on that one, ask Bridget. She's nodding her head yes, because this is exactly what we're implementing inside their team, and it is blowing up. They had, with what we're telling them to do, they had, in one Saturday, they had over 1,100 new people come in one Saturday by doing what I'm talking about here.
Nice. Anybody else thinking about their story? Does it look differently? They're all quiet. They're muted.
I'm gonna say something, because I have been part of what Taylor's talking about, and I can tell you from my personal experience, some of our stories are really long, right? We want to include like everything, and I think one of the best things that I've learned from her was that bullet list. It just sequentially allowed me to just bulletize. Number one, it keeps me on track, because those are things that I can just kind of remember and grab quick. And then it's just gotten to the point where I just have no problem telling it. But the other part that she mentioned about other people's stories, being part of what she talked about, that Saturday event, there were some that stuck out that I will never forget, and that I've talked to other people about. And maybe my story doesn't resonate with them, but one of those other stories will, or did.
Yep.
And so it isn't always our story necessarily, but another person's story sometimes could also impact someone and just perk those ears to where they seem a little more interested. I appreciate Taylor. She does a great job. She is the queen of storytelling.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. Thank you. Appreciate that. No, that's really good because such a great point to bring out because, you know, the connectors, the connecting those dots and really getting down to what really is important in the story. Because I promise you, I'll almost lay money on I could open up the mic here to anybody and you could probably tell my story. You could tell enough. I could open up and say, "Can tell my story," and you could go out and tell enough about what I shared with you to somebody else today, right?
Yep.
And that's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal. What we want to do, and you know, this is the format that we're working with you know, the team that they're doing, where everybody is working in the guidelines of how to do this. So now whenever you do it this way, what happens is people your team, they start training their ears. They're hearing it in that kind of path, that kind of format, and they start picking it up. And they'll start getting stories more quickly because they understand it sequentially, because that's the path, right? So everybody starts speaking the same language. They're not saying the same thing, but they're speaking the same language. And that's really important for duplication processes, for multiplication processes.
Good. Questions? Anybody have questions? No questions? You've shut them down, Taylor.
I have one question. So
Yes.
your story never goes past your first month, no matter what. Even
No, that's not. No, I didn't say that.
Okay, sorry.
No, I said is that I never really used a story outside of my first month. However, you can use bits and pieces of your story all the time. You can create a story of what you did last week from around this concept, right? So I'll give you a couple examples. Okay, so you know, before I got started, you know, I was looking for a way to, you know, make some extra money working from home, and you know, I needed to lose weight because I had just had a baby, and I did not, you know, I was so skeptical. So if I go, let's just say I'm going to focus on the products, and I was so skeptical because I tried every weight loss program out there, like it's unbelievable. But you know, just this last week, I was, you know, just by using the products, I mean, I dropped 3 pounds just last week. So see, I could say it like that, even though I'd already had my results, but I could say it just something as I just lost 3 pounds last week. Well, that's enough information and enough of a story. I was skeptical. That's true. Needed to lose weight. That's true. But just last week, I lost 3 pounds. Now it's current. I could say, you know, you know, when you know, I was looking for a way to make an extra $800 whenever I first started this. And, you know, I tried a lot of different things, but I will tell you, just yesterday, I made $50. I know that if I can make $50, I know I can show you how to make $50. So you can make a story out of anything that's relevant last week, this week. It's the whole, you could talk about, you know, I mean, I think I need to have a little more question around that. All I know is this. Here's what I'll tell you. The main thing is that you want to stay current, you want to stay relevant, but more importantly, you want to identify with the audience. That's the most important thing, that you connect with the person that's listening. And, you know, I think that's where a lot of people really drop the ball in this space. You know, they blow people out of the water with their stories whenever it's not necessary.
It's
Unless-
too much information is what most people give.
Well, what happens is what happens is that what happens with most people, they make the mistake of incorporating facts in their story, ingredients,
Yes.
percentages, and so whenever you start doing that, whenever you start talking about ingredients or science or any of that stuff, now you're selling me.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Yeah.
Big problem. Because what happens with that? This is what you get. When you start telling me about science and ingredients, I know for a fact you're not a scientist. You didn't develop those products. Why are you telling me that? I don't believe you. I don't care.
How many drops are in a bottle?
It's
cares.
totally irrelevant. It's
Yeah.
completely irrelevant. And so I highly encourage you. I mean, the only facts that you should be repeating is what's happened with you and what's happened with others. Outside of that, you need to stay clear of all that science. You need to stay clear of all those facts and thinking that you're going to say enough facts to convince somebody to get started on your product or get started in your opportunity, because it never works. You will never have enough facts. And whenever they start asking all the questions, I'm telling you, I'm giving you the big piece of advice. This is the gold. This is the big cherry on top. It is this. I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know about that. Because you don't. You think you do, but you don't.
I don't know. All I know is
No, you don't. Everybody and everybody, and you can go to all your doctors and all your scientists and all the stuff that the companies want to give you and all that stuff, and what you're doing is throwing up all over everybody and saying, well, this, they don't care. They don't care. I promise you, they don't care. And you're not going to give them enough information to convince them otherwise. But you will get them excited. You will get them to move forward with you if you share stories. Promise you. You'll build a big business, and more importantly, you'll build a team, because they'll see all you do every day is use, talk, demo. I just use these products. I just talk to people every time I get a chance. And I just demonstrate the results. That's all I do every single day. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm telling you, if you guys start bringing your business down to lowest common denominator, you will build big. And I mean, everything that you've been, like, I see all the oils up ahead over your head over there, so I know what you do. And you are, granted, you guys have a lot of science. You guys and you're proud of your product, rightfully so. I'm not saying you shouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm being, flippant about that at all. Please don't mistake that at all. I'm just telling you that whenever you start doing all of those things and start sharing all of that stuff, the person that's standing in front of you, sitting in front of you, they're going, oh my God, I never want to know all that.
that was me.
Why are you telling me that? I don't care. I don't care. And you're automatically communicating to them, like you're automatically saying to them, don't do my business. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. They're saying, well, I'm glad you like to learn all that stuff, because that doesn't sound very fun to me. So you're inadvertently, you think you're helping everybody, but inadvertently you're creating your own speed bumps for yourself and for the person that's listening to you, and potentially robbing them of an incredible opportunity to be working with you and be making some extra money. Dumb it down, ladies. Come on, let's get it down here where everybody is. Right?
Simple, super simple.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's magical. It's magical whenever you do this. I'm telling you, oh my gosh, you're gonna get me all fired up now.
My son, when he was in the 6th or 7th grade, signed up 2 of his teachers. because they brought products to his classroom. And he says, "Oh, you need to talk to my mom. Those aren't good for you." That's all he said. And she called me and she says, "I don't know what it is that you have, but Milo says I need it." So we got her signed up. So if a sixth grader can do it, I know you can.
So true. It's so true. And I mean, anyway, I hope that helps you, ladies. I hope that gives you some stuff to go on, and some, a really smooth track to run on, and empowers you because, listen, don't get caught up in all of that stuff. It complicates everything.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give you guys some kind advice here. Our business model it's been so complicated and so convoluted and so crazy, right? People need what you have. People need the opportunity now more than ever. You have an amazing product that serves people well. Don't do the disservice by giving them so much that they think that they can't do it. Make it so simple and easy, fun, simple, magical. There's a whole economy out there. Larry and I talk about the gig economy and the gig world. The stats that we have right now, 57 million people. And I know it's gone up tremendously just in the last 40 days. 57 million people are currently, these are stats before this, are looking for a way to make an extra $500 to $1,500 a month.
Period.
Now, they're fine, and so there's opportunities out there. There's Uber, there's Amazon, there's affiliate, there's all sorts of stuff that's fun, simple, magical. So they're overlooking your opportunity and they're going to something else because you've made it too hard. You've made it too hard for them to become involved with. So simplify it, bring it back down, make it fun, simple, magical for the everyday stay-at-home mom, the long-haired hippie construction worker, right? That if you can do it, they can do it. That's what we're communicating. That's what we want to communicate at all times. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't need certificates. We don't need to graduate from 5 years of college. We're the lowest to get into, lowest income or investment to get into, and we make it hard.
Yes.
So good.
Whenever I started, this was the average person's best chance.
Yeah.
And we've made it so hard that the average person can't even wrap their brain around it. They're up to here in responsibilities. They're up to here with their job and their kids and everything that they have. And what do we want to do? We want to come in and train them on all of our ingredients, and they're like, I don't have time for that. I can't do that.
Demo.
So listen, don't rob. Anyway, just don't rob somebody the opportunity to have an opportunity, right? By all the stuff. Make it simple. Make it easy.
Super simple. Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you. That is good. I have loads of notes. I got a blog post that's like dying to get out of my fingers. This is a whole different, I've got lots of notes and bullet points for my blog post.
Well, you're going to have to, since you're Miss Blogger, that we're with the She Network. Okay, so ladies, just so like Miss Angela here, she is one of my little OGs here in the She Network. Miss Sharon's involved in there. I'm having if any of you are bloggers, there's going to be a blogging opportunity for you to make contributions to the She Network. So,
got one.
Yay. Yay. Love it.
All right. Any kind of questions that y'all want to ask? Just unmute real quick. I'm going to honor Taylor's time because it's already been over an hour. Or we'll continue this over in the group, either one.
That went fast.
It did. I think we have lots of notes, and I hope everybody sees this as a different, super simple. I think we already have a business that's growing. You just need to recruit more people with a simpler tool instead of trying to make it so hard. And building all these ebooks and everything, I have brought everything in my business back down to what I started with. Not that I don't use those tools, but I've brought it way back. And simple is way much more fun to me. So thank y'all all for coming.
Yay, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Appreciate
It's so
you.
nice to meet you. It's so nice to meet everybody. Good to see you, Sharon. Good to see you. Good to see you, Bridget. Nice meeting you, ladies.
Oh,
Thank
everybody has to smile. So everybody's looking pretty. Ready? Cheese. See you on Instagram.
you. Hey, share that with me, okay, Angela?
I will.
Okay,
All
doll.
right.
Okay, thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Bye.